You ever wonder which voiceover niches are actually the easiest to break into, and which ones are basically locked behind a steel door where they throw away the key? Today, I'm ranking the major VO genres from easiest to hardest to break into based on my experience and what I see in the industry. If you're new, this will save you a ton of time and prepare you for what you're in for. And if you're a pro, let's see if you agree. Number one, straight out of the gate, let's start at the bottom. Audiobooks. Audiobooks are hands down the easiest to get into. They also pay the shittiest. There are a ton of opportunities, especially on platforms like ACX, but here's the catch. They pay terribly. You spend hours, sometimes days or months recording and editing, and then the pay is often less than minimum wage. But if you want to get your first credit, cut your teeth, and learn the basics of recording and editing, audiobooks are a great place to start. And if you do a good job, you can negotiate much better than minimum wage depending on how fast you work. One of the best ways to do audiobooks from what I've learned is to actually go direct to the publisher. ACX is going to pay you peanuts, but if you go direct to the publisher, you can get more fair rates, upwards of like $300, $400, even $500 per finished hour. Now, per finished hour, if you're new, is going to take you a few hours. If you're good at this, 2 hours. Next up is my favorite genre for making money. Is commercials. Commercials are fairly easy to get into and you don't need acting training. What you do need is the ability to read and talk at speed. That means picking up the words off the page and saying them like they're coming right out of your mouth for the first time, just coming off the top of your head, as if they're your own words. If you can sound like a real person, you can book commercials. Here's the thing. Commercials are the bread and butter for almost everyone in voiceover, myself included. Unless you're like a video game or an animation star, commercials are what pay the bills. And even everybody I know that does video games and animation, that does them really well at a high level, they all do commercials too. Look on TV. Hollywood stars are doing commercials, even in voiceover. So that should be the cornerstone of your voiceover income. On those lines, you've got corporate narration, e-learning, and explainer videos. These are similar to commercials in terms of skill set, but e-learning is going to get harder to break into. Why? Because if the company doesn't have a big budget, they'll just use AI. For a lot of internal training, they don't care about performance. They just want the info delivered. That said, there's still a ton of work in this space, especially if you're good at sounding clear, friendly, and professional. The way to beat AI is don't try to sound like an AI when you're doing e-learning or corporate like people often do. Try to sound like a real person. Now we're gonna do a quick honorable mention. Medical reads. They're not overly difficult to get into, especially if you know the medical terminology and can pronounce it, but they're really fucking hard to do. Not super hard to get into if you know what you're doing, really fucking hard to do. Level 10, to do well at least. Now we're getting into the tougher stuff to get into. Promo, documentary, and TV narration. These gigs are harder to land. The competition is fierce, the budgets are bigger, and the expectations are higher. You need to have a polished sound, a strong sense of timing, and often a killer demo. These jobs usually go to people with agents or established relationships in the industry. When I did Backroad Truckers for Hulu and History Channel, I got that from my agent. And I booked it over like 10,000 people, somewhere around that. Thousands. We'll just say 10,000. I don't know the actual number, but they looked all across Canada and all across the US and I got it. So I beat out like everybody for that one. That's how hard it was to get. Luckily, I had the exact voice that they were looking for, but still, it's probably a coin toss a bit. Hard to get into. Need an agent for it. In fact, so hard to get into, I haven't booked another docuseries since Backroad Truckers. Yet. Okay, now we are at the top of the difficult scale. Video games and animation. These are the dream gigs for a lot of people. A ton. Everybody wants to do a Pixar film with The Rock. I don't know. They're also the hardest to break into. You need acting chops, improv skills, and the ability to take direction on the fly. The competition is insane, and most of the work goes to people with years of experience, specialized training, and connections. They live in LA. They make friends. They make connections. But here's the caveat. Even though video games animation are the hardest to get into, they also don't pay a lot unless you're one of the lead actors, which often goes to celebrities. But hey, you never know. If you're one of the smaller roles or you're just like an NPC character or like a guest star in animation, you're not gonna make a ton of money. SAG rate is like $250 an hour, which is basically audiobook rates, but hey, it's fun. And it will give you accolades. You get to go to things like Comic-Con, get legions of fans and Instagram followers if you're into that, and gives you credibility and clout, which can help you book more work in other genres like commercials that pay a lot. But for most people, commercials are always going to be the bread and butter.